theendofthedrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
For 3 hours every Saturday night, it's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hi, guys. Matt Ray with America's First News. And if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year. The world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel. The softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to MagicalEgypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at MagicalEgypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to MagicalEgypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. Here we go again, folks. Yet another encounter with an unidentified aircraft. Fighter jets from a Royal Air Force base scrambled to intercept an unidentified aircraft that was hovering over the East Hull airspace of England. A witness says it was completely still and silent. It had a short body with huge wings and was without a nose or tail. The Ministry of Defense says no action was taken. Either they couldn't find the aircraft, which is a mystery in and of itself. Maybe it camouflaged itself. It could also be one of those ghost planes. The witness on Facebook wrote, "By the time we could pull over to video it, it was flying away at some massive speed." A different anomaly in the sky was picked up on radar in the tri-state area of Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky, and meteorologists are scratching their heads over it. The skies were clear. There was not a storm in sight. Yet several weather stations reported a severe-looking storm on radar on the evening of December 12th. The National Weather Service ruled out a thunderstorm. Reports now seem to indicate that a cloud of chaff is to blame. It's a countermeasure by military aircraft to fool radar by releasing small metal fibers or strands. But could a chaff be tracked for as long as 10 hours, as high as 10,000 feet, and also at ground level? Is the military stepping up its game? And if so, what's that all about, man? Read the news at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOST drift. Contact, nice to be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. We are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, and our website is lightingthevoid.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget, you can always call into the show at 1-800-588-0335. You can text into the show at 501-777-5631, or you can contact us via email at contact@lightingthevoid.com. This evening on the broadcast, I think it's important that we stay on the topic at this point of our states of consciousness and what it means to us when we become more conscious and aware of what things may happen when we become more conscious. Because you hear a lot of people talking about consciousness, right? You need to become more conscious and aware. And what does that really mean? I've read a lot of things and heard much about what happens when we truly wake up. And I'm not talking about just this woke movement. I'm talking about something else. For example, many scholars of metaphysics believe that as you and I speak right now, that we're not awake at all. That we're truly asleep at this moment. That this life that we live is nothing but a super, very real, vivid dream with just a nervous system attached to it to enhance the reality. Now think about that for a second. What does that imply? How can we explore this topic? Are there really people that can travel into other realms as many people that say that they can? See things that we can't, hear things that we can't? Are there really, truly clairvoyant and clairaudient people that are aware of an entirely different reality than our current programming? Now, a story I continue to tell about my first ethereal out-of-body experience, it was incredibly real. And if you can, just do me a favor so I can try to explain this a little bit better than I usually do. If you look around wherever you happen to be right now at this moment, if you're half asleep, that doesn't matter. But if you're, whatever you're doing, driving in your car, sitting in your bed, wherever you are, look around right now. Imagine that what I saw is more real than what you're seeing right now at this moment. And assuming that you have clear vision, it was even clearer or more clear. Also assuming that you can see the entire visible light spectrum right now, the colors were more vibrant. Now, I don't remember as much as far as smell and hearing goes, but a part of the whole reason why we do this show is this experience I've had, and I've had a few of them, but this one was real particular. A vibration that I really couldn't explain was happening, a slight buzz or a lightness perhaps. And as I looked around into the room, I realized that I was in my living room, and I was damn sure that I was awake until I looked down at my body and saw myself sleeping, and at once I knew that life had changed for me, at least for a little bit. Tonight, a caller we're going to call Nikki, has contacted me through the text line, and it was really a pleasure talking to her because she wants to discuss her experiences with dream yoga, reincarnation, Shakti energy, her purpose, what our purpose is. And I think it's going to be a very interesting topic indeed, and I want to really thank you, Nikki, for coming on the show, as well as Reverend Dan Lopez is here with me to keep me straight. And Nikki, thank you for contacting me. And I just want to jump right into this and ask you what happened to you.
Well, ever since I was young, I had vivid dreams, and I felt just like I had come from another planet, so to speak. I had my awakening slowly, as I'm sure any one of us starseeds might. But through different gifted psychics, through different spiritual people, it was a slow reveal. I think it first started when I had a near-death experience, and I had seen a light, and I had heard a voice that said, "You have work here to do. You're not ready to come yet." And I was sent back. It was then I woke up out of a coma for 3 days, and I realized that I had come from a blue light realm. And at that point, that was all I had known. But slowly, surely, I realized that that blue light realm was an angelic realm, and that specific angelic realm was known as the Blue Crystalline Palace, in which exists in another dimension.
Wow.
Slowly but surely, I had realized through quantum physics and quantum mechanics that there are many dimensions and many universes, and that basically everything that we could possibly imagine exists. So it opened my mind to more possibilities and more probabilities through the realm of science and fringe science. I found it extremely fascinating that as a Pisces, we tend to be more attuned to our dream stage. And through experiencing a 2.5-month residency at a local Bon Buddhist retreat, that being the same lineage that the Dalai Lama practices.
Well, can we go back for just a second here? And you said you were in a coma, right? What, if you don't mind, how old were you when what happened?
I was in my 30s, and I had gone into a coma for 3 days. I simply saw this life as suffering, and I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't understand why I was here, and I wanted to check out. And I went into very, very deep sleep. And in that moment, I had seen the light that a lot of people in near-death experiences see. And this voice, whether it was a knowing or whether it was a guide, told me that I wasn't done with this life. I had work here to do, and I was sent back.
That's incredible. And you said you saw a blue realm, like a blue light realm when you were there?
Yeah. I had been told that I was from a blue light realm, and it came back to a memory, almost like an awakening, like a very slow, easy awakening. And that remained true to my being. No matter what I experienced, I always came back to that one origin, that one truth. So it was almost like a revealing. Slowly but surely, I found out about the blue crystalline palace, and those memories came back in images that I remember before I came here. I remember a meeting, and I remember in the meeting choosing my family. And they said, we have a great family, but they're in crisis. Who will go to help? And I was the first person, or first spirit, rather, to volunteer.
Wow. Okay. So in your 30s, you were in a coma. You pretty much sounded to me like you wanted to leave this place. You went to this blue light realm that you call the Crystal Palace. I probably said that wrong, but and you met your family, and now you came back here. Did you keep any of these gifts that came back with you when you came back?
Yeah, I think innately in the knowing that this also within the DNA of my blood. So I'm a Rh negative, and it's a very rare type of bloodline, but it's almost like an awakening in that connection. As far as I can remember, in the Bon Buddhist tradition, they ask you to go into meditation and make that connection. And I had realized that through the Akashic record of our DNA, those DNA pieces don't quite connect, but in a meditative state, they do. And so that connection reaches back to our Akashic record and our remembrance and knowing. And that revealed more of the story from my past life experience and where I was from.
Have you ever went on a radio show to talk about this at all, ever?
No, this is my first time.
So tell me, and like I said, we're just going to call you Nikki to keep your... I just want everybody to know that I asked Nikki if we could, put links up in Facebook pages. There was nothing like that, and you have your reasons why you want to stay away from that, and I can understand it. Believe me. But what is it that you contacted me? You want to tell us something. There's a message, obviously, that you want to tell us. What is that message that we need to know that you learned?
It is so vital for mankind's survival, for Earth's survival, that we raise our consciousness. And it is something that we have to do in order for our children and our children's children to live. It's something that is so vital for all of us as world citizens to realize that the world is small and that we must come to love our neighbor as ourselves. But it's difficult for people to love their neighbor as themselves because it's difficult for people to even love themselves. And if they can't love themselves first, they can't love their neighbor as themselves. They have to really stop thinking of borders, of countries, of races, of everything that divides us. And they need to raise their consciousness to a unity consciousness in order for us to survive. We are destroying ourselves in this world. And in order for this world to be saved, we must come together in love.
So they told you pretty much that everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket if we don't start waking up. Right? That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, it's important on every single level. The way that we live, our waste, the way that we pollute the earth, the way that we fight against each other, the way that we think we are superior to each other. This is all ego mind. This is monkey mind. This does not really resonate with what true love is. And true love is service to mankind, and humility is understanding that we are all equal and that we are all worthy. And anything that divides that destroys us.
Now, were you spiritual or perhaps Buddhist or anything of that nature before you had the coma?
I was always a spiritual person, even when it came down to questioning my own beliefs that I was raised in. I could not abandon my spirituality. That was innate inside me. But I realized that spirituality is different than religion. It is non-existent of dogma, but it is aware of our spiritual connection. And in that awareness, there is that consciousness that we are all one. And I think that's an important message for anyone to realize, whether or not they are affiliated with a religion, is to realize that there is a unity consciousness that affects us all.
So earlier I was speaking about the dream. Well, I wanted to talk about dream yoga. So, how we discuss consciousness a lot, that we need to become more aware, right? That's something that we all, but dream, how do we do that? Like, how do we apply it? And so we talk about, astral travel and things like that. But tonight I wanted to discuss dream yoga, which kind of goes into astral travel and reincarnation and some of the stuff that you might have learned about that. Because a lot of people are wanting to astral travel now, Nikki. They're experimenting with it, and I think it's a good thing, but I also think maybe we should be careful. And I don't know much about it. What did you learn about these things?
Well, through my own experience, I learned that astral travel and astral projection are different. And astral travel, when you are traveling, you go to other realms, other worlds. And just like you would go to another country, you would not go without diplomacy, without a sense of respect. That is the difference between that and lucid dreaming. In lucid dreaming, you are awake and aware of your own reality. You dictate your own world. There are things that you can do within that dream realm that you are capable and perfectly valid of doing within that world. And when you astral travel, it is not your own world. So it's important to go with respect.
Okay, so astral projection is like when we project here, or we have an out-of-body experience in our locale or where we are, and then astral travel, we're actually traveling around in other people's territory, so to speak, or other things' territory, maybe.
Right. For instance, I had a dream that I was in this ruin of this beautiful room. It was out in the middle of the desert. I could tell it had ornate mosaics, and that it was very beautiful. And I thought I was lucid dreaming. I did not know. I was aware I was there, and I thought, wow, this is a beautiful place. I'm going to make it into my bedroom. And at that moment, there was a very strong green spirit that appeared, and I could not set my eyes on it. So I turned my face and I asked it its name, and it told me Belteshazzar.
The Shazar?
Belteshazzar, yeah.
Belteshazzar. What is that? What is that?
Well, I looked it up, and it apparently was a spirit king of Babylon. And so I, realized that this was his realm and his world and his throne room, and that I was there. And it wasn't my place to decide what I was going to do with the room. That I realized that I was in another realm, and it was my responsibility to go with respect. So, I apologized, and I realized at that moment that I could astral travel and astral project. For instance, I had another experience while I was at the retreat, that I had astral traveled into the mandalas that they have posted up in the Gompa. And it was actually a city. There are several rooms located in it, and the top version of this mandala is the blueprint of the city. So within that city, there were many walls and many rooms, and each room had a different purpose. They were prayer rooms and meditation rooms and rooms for dances and performances. In that dream, all the Buddhas were there, and in the center of the city, there was a huge Bodhi tree, and they had given tea ceremonies and other offerings to the tree. It was very blessed, and they would eat underneath the tree and enjoy each other's company. And I woke up just so enamored by this dream that I had spoken to the master, whose title is known as Rinpoche, which means precious one. And I said, that picture, that mandala there, that's a blueprint, isn't it? And he's like, yes, it is. And I said, that's a city, isn't it? And he's like, yes, it is.
So let me just be real clear about this. The mandalas that we see the mandalas we see in these books, and is that what you're speaking of? Those, because I never really knew I thought they were really cool looking, right? But I never knew that they were kind of like maps, so to speak, into dimensions. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, it is an aerial version of a city that exists in another dimension. And this Belteshazzar, did you get to meet that Belteshazzar, or did you just know you were in that domain? Yeah, in the dream I met him, and I had received his name, and then once I woke, I had done my research for the name because it was so unusual, that I had found out in my research that was
a king, and I had met his spirit in that dream.
Do you remember what he looked like?
He was a bright, shining green light. That was all that I had seen in the dream, which is, very concurrent with a lot of spirit orbs that we see, and that have been recorded in our dimensions. They exist as points of light. And spirit, they exist as light because they are a lighter density than us humans, which exist in the flesh.
Wow. Listen, we got to take a break here. Would you mind sticking with us just for maybe another 30 minutes so we can get the rest of the story? Because tonight I want to talk about how do we do these things, Nikki? The practices that we can do to become more conscious. And that's why I've labeled the broadcast tonight, dream yoga. I've read some books on dream yoga. I've studied up on it, and reincarnation, and I'd like to discuss that with you, if you don't mind, for a few more minutes.
My pleasure.
All right, guys, we're going to take our first break. We're here with Nikki, who's a guest that has called into the show to deliver a message for us. Fascinating stuff. And Dan Lopez, the Reverend Dan Lopez, is here with us too. And I am Joe Root. This is Lighting the Void. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Do you ever wonder why there's so much show in politics? Do you ever wonder why America's not getting fixed? Ever wonder why our media is not reporting the news? They report only their biased opinion. Are you tired of feeling like a controlled rat? Do you wonder what's next? If you're looking for answers, join me, Ronnie McMullen, for my new show, Deep Waters Radio. That's Deep Waters Radio. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hi, guys. Matt Ray with America's First News. And if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year. The world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel. The softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. I'm here with the Reverend Dan Lopez. Don't forget that you can always help the show out by donating. There's a donate button on the website. You can grab a t-shirt. You can use the Amazon portal or also get something off our Amazon wish list, which I can tell you that half the studio's been built off the Amazon wish list. And I want to give a special shout out to Barbara and Jan and Edward and those of you who have supported the show this month. I really appreciate you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. God bless you. Thank you. Because I know it's a tough time of the year. But we're here with Nikki, who has called in, and she called in today, actually, and told me that she wanted to discuss something with us. And we're keeping her identity a secret for her at her request. And Nikki, earlier you were discussing that you'd had a coma, that you went to this blue light palace where you were told to come back to help out the planet and your soul family, to deliver a message. But you also explained the difference between astral projection and astral travel, and you went to this place that was in the domain of, I guess the name is Belteshazzar, who you perceived as a green light, and that these mandalas that we see in these books are actually maps or overhead maps to interdimensional realms. So I think we're caught up, right? Is that everything so far?
Yes.
That's great. Correct. All right. So now, what about the state between life and death? From my understanding, it was what we're here to do is to wake up so we don't have to keep going through this process of falling asleep and then coming back and not knowing who we are. In a lot of Western texts, it's called, and I know you're a Buddhist, right? But in a lot of Western texts, they talk about solar ascension. Is it kind of the same thing from what you were taught?
Well, I think it's important that we all wake up, or that we raise our consciousness. There are practical ways of doing that. And one way is to decalcify your pineal gland, or the spirit center of the brain, which for most people is calcified by fluoride, fluorinated toothpaste, fluorinated water. If you study the history of the Nazi regime, you'll discover that they had fluorinated the water to the concentration camps so that people would become more pacified and more zombie-like. It's also a rise in consciousness due to the fact that we are constantly bombarded by electrical frequency transmissions and radio transmissions, different, frequencies that and just bring about a static in the brain and in our body. If you observe, a lot of people are attached to their phones. They don't engage in personal conversation. There is no eye contact anymore. People are simply just walking aimlessly, looking at their phones, and we talk about the zombie nation, and that is a form of being asleep. People are just not paying attention. There are even warnings for people not to use their phone when they're driving because they're distracted drivers, and that can cause a lot of accidents. And, just different things like pharmaceuticals that, pump people with a lot of chemicals. It causes side effects. Sometimes the side effects are worse than, actually taking care of the symptoms. So, all these can boggle our mind with obsessive thoughts that don't allow us to look at the bigger and brighter picture of why we're here and what our contribution to mankind is.
Did these messengers, did they tell you what would happen specifically to the planet if we don't wake up? Did they give you any idea? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, well, Gaia has been prophesied to exist forever, and there is a prophecy in the Bible about the 144,000 anointed heirs of Christ coming here to help raise the consciousness of mankind, to help save that planet. And so it's destined that we survive. However, there is a warning that if we continue the way that we are continuing, that we will not survive. And understanding that that is a real and imminent threat is very important, not for just mankind, but for the entire galaxy. Because at this point of mankind, we are traveling into space. We're trying to colonize, Mars and find out if we can live there. And if we are to become intergalactic, we have to understand first how to survive on this planet. Otherwise, we will spread like a cancer and affect other planets and other life forms. And that is not good for our overall health. We have to first master what it means to live here and to respect the planet and to respect each other if we are going to extend ourselves out into space and affect other planets in their life.
Do you see that as even, with the state of the planet that it's in right now, with the way we are, our attention spans are so drawn to not focus on anything more than 30 seconds. Do you think that's possible? Do you believe that's possible at this moment?
Yeah, I believe it is possible because it is something that I am practicing here now, that by not, being glued to the television and seeing flashing images, by not being attached to my phone all the time, or to turn off my phone when I sleep, or by just grounding in nature and coming back to what our ancestors once knew. It is possible through our example that this can be done. And so it brings about a hope that the more conscious we become, the better we can live and the better we can affect other lives. For instance, one-use plastics, we have to think of where that goes. The great garbage heap in the ocean, what are we doing with that? how are we living our life, and what can we do to make ourselves more healthy, to live more organically. These are all small personal changes that we make within our own self, within our own world. And by doing that, we change the world when we change ourselves.
If we become fully conscious beings, what does that mean? Does that mean that we'll be able, that all of us will be able to travel these worlds instead of just being stuck here all the time? I mean, there's got to be some type of reward for saving the planet, you know? Because that's, and I'm saying that with all due respect, because that's what people want. They want, if they're going to put out effort to save this planet and humanity, they want something back. And I know that love is supposed to be unselfish, but it's kind of not. You know, a lot of people have given up on this planet in their minds already. Just totally.
Yeah. I find it innately ironic that people pray for peace, but do they practice peace in their everyday life? And how do they conduct themselves? How do they treat another person? How do they treat their own family? How do they treat themselves? It all starts with loving oneself, because you can't love your neighbor as yourself if you can't learn to love yourself. And so just understanding that we are a universe within ourselves, and understanding that we can affect the universe outside ourselves if we can learn to control ourselves from within.
So the Gnostics that I was talking about earlier, and I will talk about later in the program, some of the methods that they discussed to awaken ourselves to be able to travel these realms. The Gnostics believe, well, there's several different Gnostics, but one of the bigger forms of Gnosticism believes that right now that we're in a very deep state of sleep. Is that true?
Yeah, the majority of mankind is. And it's important that we all awaken, that we all become more conscious of what we are doing to ourselves, what we're doing to each other. Understanding that we can open our lives and our hearts, we can open our chakras, we can learn to come back to nature, and we can affect our lives for the better. We do this one life at a time, and doing that affects the planet. It's absolutely vital for our survival as a whole in mankind.
And earlier when I spoke to you on the phone, you discussed something about, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but that you were, was it a Shakti or something about feminine energy? Can you talk a little further on that?
Yeah. When I had met with Rinpoche after the retreat, he had told me, he said, "Do you know how blessed you are?" And I was like, "Not really. It seems like everything in my life is being destroyed." And he said, "Do you know all the monks are talking about you?" And I said, "Well, what are they saying about me?" And he said that I was a Shakti. And in that term, that is the divine feminine energy. They had seen something in me, the familiarity of a lot of mantras, the questions that I had, the innate knowing that I had come here for a purpose. And they realized that because they had raised their consciousness.
And I bet that was kind of hard to take, because I have a Buddhist temple here, Nikki, and I've always thought about going there and just, talking to him and learning from him, because I consider myself as just an ordinary dude, a nobody. So I can imagine that would be pretty intense to have all the monks there saying, talking about you, discussing about you.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, I had been told by a very gifted psychic that I had to raise my consciousness and to the fifth dimension, and that I would need to experience this. And once I did, I would no longer experience my depression and anxiety. And the reason why I was experiencing it in the first place is because I wanted to understand it on a personal level so that I could have more compassion for people who were experiencing it. And all that came to fruition. I just had a great need in my heart to stay there. And I had explained to one of the executives that were there at the time that I needed to do a residency program. They didn't even have a residency program set up per se there. But I said, I need to raise my consciousness. I need to be here. And this is something as part of my my soul's mission. And they had opened it up. They had created something where people could exchange work for residence. And I had stayed there for 2.5 months. Through that time, I had learned how to open my chakras. I worked with a guru from India. And I also had learned from one of the monks there how to do that in a Tibetan way. And I enjoyed a lot of meditations with him, one of which I had seen golden light beings entering my third eye in one form of another, and there was a bunch of purple light around it. Just very supernatural, but very intense things that had happened to me during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's a couple of people in the chat that keep asking that they want to know if you felt like you had a choice when you were in the coma. Did you have a choice about coming back while you were in the coma, or were you forced to come back?
Well, I think that in that time period that I had a mission here, and it had been a soul mission that I had accepted before I reincarnated here. But that feeling innately that I had when I was in a coma and I got sent back was that I have to be here. And that wasn't my time to cross over into that realm. So, I would say that it was a mixture of both. In that knowing, I felt like I had to be here and that I was forced to come back, but also that I wanted to come back because something that existed and I agreed to before I came here.
So you were kind of, so it's one and the same thing. You had to come back. You didn't have a choice, but you also knew that was your choice, pretty much is what you're saying.
Exactly. And, as I'm explaining it, I'm trying to explain it linearly, but linear time does not exist in those realms. It's one and the same. So that's why it's both.
Wow. Well, I'm curious because I've heard this message before, but I have a feeling that, and I don't know why, because you're guarding your identity, that it's a little bit more legit coming from you, because I think you understand the effects of, I don't know if you pay attention to this community at all, but you may or you may not, but what happens when a guest comes on a show and people start talking about them, and then everybody follows them on Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff, and now you got this whole other thing to do. Is it just because you just don't want to deal with any of that?
Yeah, I think that sometimes it can be a hindrance. I don't I'm not here for fame or fortune or, just attention. I'm here to give a message. And the message is what's important. It's not me in the spotlight. It's this thing that all mankind has to understand. It doesn't serve our highest good to be divided into countries or to be divided into nations, to be divided into economic, social classes. All those divisions are created by our ego and thinking that we are better than another person because we exist or we go to, this church or we are this race or we are this nation. That doesn't help our highest good because we don't understand how to become world citizens. When we understand how we affect each other as world citizens, we can understand and appreciate each other's cultures, celebrate each other's differences, and come together in unity consciousness, which is what we all want. We all want world peace, but how do we attain it? And that unity consciousness and raising our consciousness is very important if we are to receive what we all innately want. We can't simply just pray for world peace on a Sunday and think every other day we're just going to go do our thing. That is not enough. We have to practice what we preach and be innately truthful to ourselves and to each other in order for us to attain that ideal.
I'm with you on that. And later in the program, we're going to discuss some of these methods of awakening. I guess the ones that I've learned, I'm sure that they come from some Buddhist teachings, but there is a question in the Spreaker chat, and I think it's an important question. When you came back from the coma, when you were in between states, was there anything else that you saw besides, coming back from the blue crystal realm that you were in to this life? What did you see anything on the way back?
I would say that I had saw that white light and that voice, whether it was a guide or innate knowing, that I had work here to do. It was kind of revealed slowly through time, and that the pieces and the small bits of memory had come back. The reason why I was here, that meeting that I had in that heavenly realm, and that knowing of memory that I had even, before I was born and within my mother's womb, and all those things that seemed like a dream were coming together to piece as a whole picture. It took time and understanding of that realm and where I was and why I was here and where I was going. And all those innate, difficult questions that we have took a revealing of time, and wasn't something that came out instantly. It was something that had happened through my lifetime and all pieced together to reveal a greater truth, just like putting together a puzzle.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story with us, Nikki. I'm glad that you thought it was important to call me and tell me the experience you had when you came back from the coma and what you've learned. And I think that it's important. It's a message that we hear a lot, but we don't get to hear it from someone that actually lived it. A lot of it's just theory and talk, and you actually lived it and saw these things and came back. And I think it's very cool that you decided to come on and talk to us about it. And I know it's your first time coming on the radio, and I really appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my honor.
All right. So we're going to let you go. And again, thank you. I really appreciate that. If you have anything else, though, that you want to send me, you can email it to me or call and leave a message. That line is going to be open for you if you remember anything, and we'll get you back on, okay? If you want to talk to us again.
All right. All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, we're going to be right back. We're going to go into this topic of what she's talking about, how to become more aware. So we're going to discuss some of these methods of awakening and dream yoga, astral travel, some of the stuff that I've learned, and we'll see where we can go. It's important to apply it, not just talk about it, right? We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. The first ever recording of what winds on Mars sound like has been captured by NASA's InSight lander. After touching down on the red planet following a 6-month trip through space, sensors recorded winds blowing at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. The frequency of the sounds are similar to what comes out of a subwoofer, which is hard for most of us to hear. NASA raised the audio 2 octaves to be more perceptible to the human ear. Over the coming years, they'll be able to collect even more data on the Mars 2020 rover, which will be equipped with a pair of microphones. Not even a week after arriving at near-Earth asteroid Bennu, the OSIRIS-REx probe has found hydrated minerals, suggesting that liquid water was once plentiful on the 1,640-foot wide space rock.
It's got a lower density than even these carbonaceous chondrite meteorites, which tells us that it probably is made of these hydrated minerals, which are generally low density.
The University of Arizona's Dante Loretta, principal investigator on the OSIRIS-REx mission, said, "We targeted Bennu precisely because we thought it had water-bearing minerals." NASA also released the awesome picture of Bennu that was taken on December 2nd as the spacecraft approached it. Scientists believe Bennu is likely a pile of rubble that coalesced after a massive impact shattered a larger object hundreds of millions of years ago. You'll find these stories at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, Paranormal News.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news.
These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info, and find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Yohoy there, Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, on The Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. And the Reverend Dan Lopez is here with us. That was Nikki, who called in today. Tonight, I was going to discuss this topic of, it's kind of synchronistic because I don't think that she had listened to any of the previous episodes we had this week. And I wanted to discuss, dream yoga, the methods of astral travel, and the methods of conscious awakening. And there's a theory behind all of this. But she just called today and left me a message about that she was in a coma and she saw these things and traveled to these places and had a message that she wanted to deliver. So we let her do that, and I'm glad that we did. It was very, very cool. I'm sorry. I have to apologize, and I'm kind of frustrated with the sound issue. But let me tell you what's going on here with that, and we're going to fix it. We're going to take care of it. This whole entire studio has been built by others. You guys, Eric's pitched in, everybody's pitched in. The thing is when that little water effect happens, I have to disconnect and then reconnect very fast as soon as I hear it. And there's a slight delay. But when I reconnect, it's all good. Without a hardware encoder, that's never going to go away. I've come to that conclusion, and these bastards, they have a stranglehold on the hardware encoder market, so they're super expensive. But we're going to figure that out. Nobody's going anywhere. It does frustrate me too, as I know it frustrates you. But I can promise you, the second you start hearing that, if it happens, and it doesn't happen that often, it will not last. But it frustrates me to no end, man. Dan knows it because he gets tired of hearing me whine about it. So, anyways, this is what we're going to talk about. There is a method of dream yoga. There's some books that I've read about this, not just understanding that we need to wake up, but understanding that from a Gnostic theory, from a Gnostic point of view, that we are actually walking around in a very, very deep sleep. And like I said earlier, many mystics believe that as you and I are speaking, you can look around your room right now and see the things that you see, and you hear my voice. All of this is happening as we speak. It's very real. But all it is a very real, vivid, deep dream with a nervous system attached to it in a very dense dimension. And I want you to think about that for a second and what that implies, and then how we can explore this topic and do methods together to try to wake up. It's cool to talk about it, but we got to be careful as we do these things, right? And so the Gnostics discuss dream yoga. And it's just as it sounds. It's a practice of waking up. So you do things in your awakened state so that you can awake in your sleep state. And they believe that when you are awake in your sleep state, and you're truly awake at that point. And I can sum it up. We'll get into details in here in just a second, but I can sum it up like this. We have to be conscious and aware right now of things and not become fascinated with the things in this realm and always question if we're awake. Now, this is just the start of the practice. Do you guys remember when I told you I had that flying experience in the astral realm? When I walked outside, I did a double check from this Gnostic book that I read. I double checked myself. I said, if I'm really in the astral realm, maybe I can fly. Well, the whole reason why that came up in my head is because I'd done something very embarrassing, but I was doing dream yoga. And a part of this was I used to skim through these books because I was incredibly lazy. And let's just get to the point, right? What can I do? And I found this page, and it was talking about, actually, while you're awake, go outside and try to fly. I said, that's ridiculous. I can't fly. Well, just try it. So I went outside, and I was thinking, what the hell does it even feel like to fly? I've got no wings. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to try. So I'm just trying this stupid thing. And I did that for a little while. And the next thing you know, when I had this experience, it was just as real as it is right now. Like I said, if you look around, it was just as real. But I was aware. I lifted off the ground, and I was like, oh, okay. And that's a lot how you transition. So a lot of people have asked, how do you transition between dreams in the astral realm? We're not talking about just a lucid dream, but how do you make that transition? I don't know if have any idea what I'm talking about, Dan, but can you imagine being my neighbor and walking outside and looking at the morning sun and looking over to the left, and there's Joe outside jumping up and down trying to fly, a grown man.
I've seen crazier.
Picture what that looks like, right? But I did, and I just learned it from the text. So these are the things that I'm trying to get you to understand. So you're always pretending and checking if things are real. And they don't want you to give into fascination. So they don't want you to give into astonishment. Right. So I just got a text that says you need to be observed in order to exist. That's quantum dreaming. Okay. So you always want to check things. So you develop ways of checking if you're asleep or you're awake. Even if you know that you're awake, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Right now you know you're awake. But you've got to come up with some way of checking that. You've also got to be aware of when you give into fascination and astonishment. And these are very small things, right? So we can walk by a very big, colorful neon sign and we get glued to it. But instead of observing the sign and asking, and I know this is going to sound crazy, asking if that sign is real, if it makes sense in this reality, and really just start studying what we see, we're never going to become awake because we give in to the astonishment, if that makes any sense. So when we fall asleep, we become very forgetful. We forget about this life, and we just succumb to whatever existence is around us. We don't become lucid. And so lucid dreaming is only one step to awakening. And in that forgetting process, we forget who we are. So we're always like two people. We're here in this reality, and in the dream state, we're somebody else all the time, and that has to stop. Now, we talked about last night, the masters of these mystery schools were actually in the internal realms. All these lodges and temples and Rosicrucian lodges and all these things that you see are really just exoteric forms of the real mystery school. So you don't have to really be a member of a lodge or a member of anything to find these masters and start learning this stuff. All they really are is just exoteric symbols for the inner realm. So think about this yin and yang thing, right? Think about it that way. That it all is as a mirror of itself. Now, these masters would instruct their disciples when they were out of their physical bodies, so they would become awake so much that now they could work in the inner realms. They weren't just dreaming like we do or dealing with the chaos of our mind. They learned to train that. And once they learned to train that, then the masters would start instructing them as they were out of their physical body. So we need to understand just how profoundly important it is to meditate and practice what we've learned during the hours of our sleep. And what the Gnostics talk about in dream yoga is as soon as you wake up, and this is some of the beginner stuff, not falling asleep, but the things we forget about is when we wake up, we want to jump up and start writing in our journal real quick. What they talk about it is don't move. And they don't really explain it scientifically, but I know there's some science behind it. As soon as you wake up, don't move. Be incredibly still and as relaxed as possible. Because as soon as you start moving around, your astral body gets agitated and you start losing all the memories of your dream. And they would actually teach mantras. Now think about that. Western esoteric people that are, some of them are Freemasons, some of them are Rosicrucians, but they were doing Eastern mantras. Now, I'm not talking about your average Mason. Most of the Masons that you meet, all these people, they don't even know what I'm talking about. They just study the symbols and read their papers and memorize their rituals, and that's all they do. But they don't know that it's a representation of something they're supposed to learn in the inner realms. Because once they learn that, they move on. This is the lodge system that you see. The Blue Lodge is more like a preparing, and they have all these different places you can go. So it's like a filtering system. And then, I don't want to get into this too much, but once that filtering system works its way through, and then you get these people that learn these esoteric teachings, then some of them decide to use it for good, and some of them decide to not to. And that's that. But according to the Gnostics, these mantras are for the student. What dynamite is for the miner. Like a miner opens up his way through the bowels of the earth with dynamite. He just keeps blowing stuff up, right? Well, so that way the student also opens his way up with these mantras. And they open doorways into the memories of your subconscious and into these internal realms. They discuss patience and tenacity, which is something I wanted to discuss with Nikki because we like to talk about astral travel. We've tried it a couple of times. We've listened to the tapes, and it didn't work. But we're not being patient with ourselves. This is incredibly hard to break through all of our programs to be able to do this. So you got to be infinitely patient and tenacious. Why is that? Why can't you just do it like you read about in the books? Well, I think it's because powers that we gain, they cost something. Nothing's for free. Everything's got a price. And it kind of weeds out the people that aren't serious about waking up. And it's all about the will. If you study it, you'll see. It's all about the will. How strong is your will? When you study magic, it's all about the will. Mysticism's all about the will. If you really get into astral travel and dream yoga, it's all about the will. The will is everything. But they also, there's the one thing that, Dan, that throws me off about this whole thing. And this is another thing that the Gnostics speak about. Before you start doing these practices and studies, you have to not be a skeptic. This isn't for the skeptic in any fashion. You also have to have, and they demand, infinite faith. I have an issue with that.
Why?
Because, and it's not, and I have an issue with the infinite faith in anything.
Why?
Why? Because it's a surrender. Yeah. It's a natural thing. So you want me to surrender to what you're saying, no matter what.
What's so hard about that?
Oh, I've had people try to make me surrender to what they're saying before. It's a program.
But that's people.
Well, these people wrote these books, Dan.
Yeah, I understand, but there's a process and stuff like that, and there's experiences that you're not going to go through unless you do surrender. The surrendering is not about giving yourself over to somebody else. The surrendering is you about to control your will. Are you about to control your ego? Okay? Because sometimes we have to let go of that which is holding on to everything. Because if we can't move forward, it's because we're holding ourselves back. So if we don't allow ourselves to go forward, that's because we're not willing to. So, but if we allow ourselves to let go, stop being so fearful, and allow it to experience.
So, okay, I get you. If I came to you and said, hey, Dan, I need you to have infinite faith in my cat god, and he's going to give you personal powers, but you can't question it. You have to have ultimate faith. That would be easy for you.
Nothing's ever easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Turning over, and letting it go is never easy.
Let go and let
practice.
God. Yeah.
It's a practice. It's a practice. It's not something that's easily obtained. You have to be able to just be able to do it. And
yeah,
if you're not in the practice of doing it, then you won't be able to do it.
What we're talking about is letting go and having infinite faith in someone else's belief.
I don't know.
There's going to be an issue with people.
If
right?
you say that, well, it's more like that depends on the way it's being put out. But the thing is it's a spiritual principle, or it's a spiritual practice, and you have to have faith in the process. If you don't have faith in the process, it's going to take you a while before you begin to. That's why you got to try it.
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying is it's hard. I'm not trying to flip a coin here. It's just difficult.
Like if you get hypnotized, you can't really get hypnotized by somebody who you don't trust.
And so, no, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And so that's what they say, that skeptical people must not come to our studies because occult science is very demanding, that skeptics fall and fail totally because skeptical people will always try not to succeed in entering the heavenly realms. I believe that part I believe. Every skeptic I've ever met, not healthy skeptics, but the professionals, they do everything in their power to make sure something doesn't happen or justify why it can happen. And then when you ask them to try it, and I have proof of this, you remember when I put out that challenge of those people that didn't believe in astral travel, I said, I will give you an audio that I have that helped me get out of my body. The only people that contacted me were people that believed in it. And they said, well, maybe I misunderstood your challenge. I said, no, it's for people that don't believe. And even some of them tried to fool me, But I'm like, look, you got pictures of all the spiritual stuff on your Facebook page, and you believe in this stuff. You just want the free audios. But the real skeptic would never make that step. Isn't that something? But they don't have a problem speaking out against what they don't believe in, but they'll never try it. So to that point that you're talking about, I agree with.
Right.
They'll never try things. I mean, because who wants to go around and try to keep themselves awake all day and ask themselves if they're dreaming or if they're not, to do all these different yoga tricks and stuff to get out of body? People just want to get out of body, man. They want to have an astral experience, but they don't want to do the work to get there. Yeah, some people can do it easier than you, man. Some people just have that gift. Some of us have to work for it. So how bad do you really want to do it? And then if you look at modern psychology and you study occult science, you can see that, at least for the most part, Western psychology is pretty lost and ignorant of all the different dream types and states that happen in the astral realm, as the Gnostics categorize it, as they categorize it with the parts of the body. Everything's related in Gnosticism. And it's something I like to study. I'm not saying I'm a Gnostic, but they put it all together, all the different mystery schools, and they show you the parallels. So it's a good thing to study. They teach that all dreams have a quality that are close related to the psychic centers of your body. And there's 5, according to them: your intellectual, motor, emotional, instinctive, and sexual centers. You guys know with some of the guests that we've had on that a lot of these make sense, especially the sexual stuff. But they say most of our dreams are related to our motor instinctive center, the things that happen to us in our daily life. And all our astral bodies do is just kind of repeat this stuff through the subconscious, and it's kind of chaotic. Like, for instance, fear. If you're full of fear or you see something that scared you that day, you may have a dream about something chaotic that you can't control. And so you got to learn, like Dan is saying, you got to be patient and try it and do it. You got to learn to work with this stuff, to awaken. I used to have this idea, Dan, that I could walk down to the Buddhist temple near me and I'd talk to a Buddhist monk, yeah, buddy, and I'd wake up. All I had to do was just sit at the foot of a Buddha for one day, and I would be an awakened being. I would ascend.
How'd that work for you?
Yeah, it didn't work. I still haven't went to the temple. All I'm doing is reading books and trying stuff, just to be honest with you.
Sure.
But when it comes to the work, we don't want to do it. And I understand that. But it's very, very rewarding. I know this now. So maybe it's worth it. That one little hang up there I can't get away from is infinite faith. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it, but when somebody asks you to have infinite faith, it's not like Bruce Lee came up to you and said, empty your cup and let me teach you something. It would be like somebody coming to you and saying, empty your cup and accept my paradigm and my God. And then all these things will start working for you.
Well, you know what it is a lot of people they come from this place where they hear about things, they hear about other people, having come to this point in their life or whatever. And then when they go to try it for themselves, they have not the same reason or the same motivation as the person who inspired them to take the path anyway. For the most part, a lot of people, when they go on this path, it's usually because they find that their life as they know it is not working for them, and they realize that they're doing something harmful to themselves and they want change.
Yeah.
And so depending on how desperate they are for the change is going to motivate them to be as motivated to proceed in that path, because without the motivation, without the drive, it usually does. Some people call it a bottom. Some people need to hit their bottom in order to get somewhere. Some people, they just feel like there's something more and they're missing it. And it's not that one way is better than another, because everybody's got their own thing that actually works better for them than other things. Or there's a combination of things that works for them, and that key combination doesn't work for everybody. But for them, they find peace, they find happiness, they find sanity, they find clarity, all these things that, that many of us are seeking, because a lot of what's going on in life right now is the unrest of the world.
Well, I want to talk to you about some of these things that I learned from different people. And just keep in mind that this is coming from this theory that I'm not afraid to practice. Okay. It's coming from the theory that right now that we're in a deep sleep. And many have told us, Lon Milo Duquette, when he was on the show, he talked about the Russian nesting dolls. Yeah. You just keep opening them up, and then there's another one, and there's another one. Where we are right now, we're inside that nesting doll, like deep inside this thing. So we're trying to remember ourselves from that state. And then once we get to the opening of all this, that we can get real instructions on how to do these things. But I think it's kind of funny that they talk about skeptical people quite a bit. They don't say this isn't going to work for skeptics. What they say is skeptical people must not come to our studies because occult science is demanding that skeptics fail totally because they will always try not to succeed in entering these realms. They will always try not to succeed in anything that you discuss. So it's like they're doing the opposite. subconsciously or consciously. Because for the skeptic, it's about being right, and they want to be comfortable in their reality. That kind of shook me up a little bit when I was watching the Bob Lazar film. So we're going to continue this discussion. If you want to chime in, you can call in. The phones are open. The text line is open. I need to pay attention to the text line. It's buzzing over here. And you can contact the show at contact@lightingthevoid.com. I think that I'm also going to give you a pretty freaky story here. A true paranormal event that's happened right now as we speak from one of the world's largest spiritual advisors. And I think you may know who I'm talking about. You may want to guess during the break. But let's just say
Oprah?
that... No, it's not Oprah. But let's just say
I'm kidding.
Let's just say that they were interrogated, and this is a case that we've been talking about all week, by the police. And when they were interrogated and questioned by the police, that many paranormal things started to happen to a lot of people. Some freaky, witchy stuff is going on. And I'll tell you who it is. Some of you have already guessed it, actually, when we come back. This is Lighting the Void. I'm Joe Roop. Stay with us. More after this.
Is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hi folks, it's a holiday season with hope in the air. Things to look forward to and no time for despair. Health can be a challenge, and so can the mail. So Get the Tea wants to help you by giving you a sale. Buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month for free. No limit. That's buy 2 months of Super Tea and get 1 month free. That's a savings of $35. Where? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Scroll down on the front page and find the buy 2 get 1 free ad. Click it and save. Orders over $100 get free shipping. Send the gift of life. Change tea at GetTheTea.com. We have many non-GMO organic supplements just waiting for you. This holiday season, enjoy health and Thanksgiving with GetTheTea.com. Want to call us? 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. GetTheTea.com is a proud sponsor of doing what's right. That's GetTheTea.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Greetings, galactic community. This is Suzanne Ross, host of Sci-Spy Radio, every Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. Join me for this brand new show featuring a revolutionary new genre, Sci-Spy, merging science and spirituality to give us answers to the greatest mysteries of creation. Together, scientific discovery and spiritual revelation reveal the truth about who we are, where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Tune in to Sci-Spy Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific and discover the truth for yourself at thefringe.fm.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio. Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback at thefringe.fm. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, welcome back. So tonight we're discussing dream yoga and the awakening process and some of the methods that we can do to learn how to become more awake and astral travel and ascend. I guess some people call it ascension. But I wanted to deliver this story because we've been talking about it all week. And if you haven't, some of you probably already know, but we've been discussing this John of God story. And you guys, if you're crystal herders and you shop for crystals, then you know who John of God is. And I will usually put this stuff in my own words, but I got to say that this article really brings it home. Supernatural events have been terrifying police while they were interrogating the celebrity medium of John of God over sexual abuse claims as a computer takes on a life of its own and electrical appliances start to short circuit. Now, this is just the start of the paranormal activity as they were interrogating this man. Detectives questioning a celebrity medium in Brazil accused of sexually abusing more than 300 women, that's a bigger number than I heard last time, have reported spooky going-ons during their own 2-hour interrogation. Unexplained incidents ranging from a bizarre computer crash to wiring on an electrical appliance is suddenly short-circuiting appears to suggest at first possibly some supernatural forces were at play during the interview. Now, the mysterious problem they did unnerve the cops, but it didn't deter them from collecting the testimony from this faith healer. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Yayo Texiera de Feria. I've just screwed it all up. Who is known as John of God. This happened Sunday night. The detective's name was Carla Fernandez. That's the detective that was responsible for coordinating the task force who was investigating the allegations, claimed that as the spiritual guru began to speak, strange things started to happen. Suddenly, the computer that was being used to transcribe the suspect's answers to the allegations seemed to take on a life of its own, and the commands on the keyboards would not work. When the clerk tried to enter the medium's statement, the keys locked on a specific letter. The specific letter was O. And it just locked on O's, and O's started running across the screen, and that was recorded continuously on the screen for a few seconds. Now, they said this has never happened before, but the agents, uncomfortable, they just said, no, it's a faulty computer. But when the printer in the room began to print without receiving a command, and then a refrigerator blew up at the same time, their thoughts started to turn to paranormal interference. Now, Detective Fernandez said it was hot in the interrogation room, and she decided to turn on the air conditioning. She plugged the lead into an extension shared with a mini fridge, and the electrical wiring suddenly exploded, burning out the fridge. And everybody in the room screamed with fright, because I'm sure it scared them when the explosion happened. But according to the officer, the 76-year-old spiritual healer who is accused of sexually molesting women during private consultations at his clinic remained silent. She said, although these things happened and surprised us, they failed to interfere with their work. Mr. John of God didn't say a word. They also show that this man tried to withdraw nearly $9 million before surrendering to the police on Sunday. So there you go. He surrendered to the cops. So now we know it's true. The documents seen by the Associated Press are part of a judge's ruling rejecting bail. Another person, Pino of the prosecutor's office, also said Wednesday that investigators found firearms and a large quantities of cash in the house of Mr. John of God, used by him as a spiritual retreat. Investigators also believe that 2 unexplained incidents which occurred prior to Mr. John of God giving himself up could be linked to the occult. Of course, they got to use that word occult. That's the scary word. A police clerk who was meant to transcribe the faith healer's testimony at the police station in the rural town of Annapolis was run over in a car accident and broke his arm. It goes on. More strange things started to happen. Investigators originally intended to question the suspect at a small outpost, but the unexpected incident meant that the interview had to be transferred to a different place, which is Goiânia, the capital of the state of Goya or whatever. I don't know how to say these names. I apologize. And last Friday, as the press they staked out John of God's house in the city, rumors began to circulate that spirits had cursed the reporters. Now, photographers and TV camera crew who had camped for nearly 24 hours waiting for the guy to come out, they were waiting for him to come out and surrender after a warrant was issued for his arrest. Hardened professionals admitted they started praying when a news agency photographer in the press pack suddenly fell ill and lost consciousness for a few minutes. Many who were reluctant to admit the episode was associated with John of God's mystic powers did concede that for sure a paranormal association wasn't so far-fetched. Hernandez agreed that the unexplained happenings cannot be dismissed. She quotes that I accept that we are dealing with a situation that involves beliefs and mystic energies. She said, adding she believes John of God has supernatural powers. I accept that those beliefs could possibly be true. I'm also a spiritualist and a believer in the spirit world and the paranormal. Although I'm not afraid, I do have a healthy respect for the unknown. Unquote. Mr. John of God has denied any allegations that he sexually violated hundreds of women, although he surrendered, including his own daughter, under the pretense of administering mystical treatments. His lawyer claimed his client is being persecuted at the complaints made by hundreds of women, with the number now topping some 500 are coming from people who want to destroy him. This is crazy, man. Many people also say that they were underage at the time of the abuse. The mystic, Mr. John of God, has been detained in custody, and on Monday, as agents started the search of the faith healer's premises, a court denied an appeal for bail, which was a bombshell to a lot of the spiritual world. And now, if you don't know who this guy is, he became famous for performing miracle surgeries on hundreds of thousands of people from all over the globe. He's been practicing since 1976 and is revered as a powerful spiritual force. He has been interviewed on Oprah and has also treated Mr. Bill Clinton himself. A lot of his followers allegedly have been cured of cancer, disabilities, psychological illnesses, and numerous other ailments while attending his alternative treatment clinic in Central West Brazil. Pretty freaky stuff going on. So let's look at the facts real quick, and we'll continue our discussion on dream yoga. But this guy is a well-known mystic, especially if you buy crystals. And he's been practicing since 1976. He's been accused of abusing women. And since then, he surrendered to the police, and all this crazy stuff started happening. Computers, refrigerators blowing up, people getting sick, people getting run over while he sits in silence and stares. That's a little strange. people started dropping down and praying.
The refrigerator thing, not so much.
The refrigerator probably was. Maybe they just got bad electricity. Can I play skeptic here?
I mean, who the hell plugs in a refrigerator and a freaking air conditioner at the same time? They're both over 12 amps. Unless you have over 20, 30 amps, unless you have a 30 amp breaker, it's going to be able to freaking handle it. But both units are going to be over 12 amps, especially on start.
That can't be real, right? It's got to be just a bunch of coincidences.
Well, that one was just easily debunked. I don't know about everything else, but that one was just, well, they had to throw that in, for emphasis.
It does seem weird, though, that somebody that has that much impact on the spiritual community is all of a sudden accused of being abused. I don't know. I don't want to get too conspiratorial here, but
we don't know anything.
We don't know nothing. I'll just know that that's probably one of the strangest stories I've heard about in a long time. I remember seeing the guy's crystal at all those paranormal conferences I went to. Just big old fat crystals he sold for hundreds of dollars.
Right.
All right, back to our discussion here about dream yoga. Dream yoga. Yeah, we talked about the patience and understanding the work that it takes a while to be able to do these things for certain people, that we have to do practices in this reality. But what does it mean to be truly awake? According to the Gnostics, a truly awakened Gnostic cannot dream. They don't dream. Only those who have the consciousness asleep live dreaming. That doesn't even make sense. Only those who have the consciousness asleep live dreaming. So, in other words, it's all conscious to them. They don't dream. That's kind of a hell of a statement, but the quality of the dreams depend on their beliefs and their programs of the dreamer. So, for instance, if we have a dream, we can see, depending on our belief, we can see a spirit, and that spirit can either be a demon or an angel, depending upon our beliefs. The subconscious isn't perfect. It's like a projector that it projects things in your dream state, and it also can project errors. And these are the things that you have to overcome. Okay.
I want to dream of honey buns.
That sounds great right now. Now, they did, like I mentioned earlier, they believe that during the hours of your sleep that the masters would come and test you in the inner realms. They would test you by meanings of fear. And I thought that was interesting because if you research the Rosicrucians and the magical societies in the neophyte, which neophyte being their first ritual that they perform, where they get dressed up and do the ritual, the first thing that they're told is fear is a fetter that binds, that fear is the enemy, and that you will be tested, and they will test you by all of your fears. And I'm talking about even terror here. And this was something Crowley believed in, is putting you to the test when it came to your fear. They believe that during the hours of sleep that these masters would test you. You may see beings, shadows, blobs, maybe even the Hat Man, but your fear will be tested. That fear is the ultimate barrier. And the most important thing in life is to realize that the inner being is there and that you have this inner being and that you need to learn to work with it. But if you cannot move past the fear, you will never learn to work with it. But it's always there, whether you're asleep or awake. It does not matter. So what we're dealing with here is an identity issue. Now, this is something that Samuel Onviora talked about, who called himself the fifth angel or the angel of Mars. He said that, now we're hearing this from an angel, I guess, that the person ends up intoxicating himself with a cup of liquor when they drink, the intoxication of lust when they see the opposite sex. They have these things. They become fascinated with these things. The sleepy ones become identified with everything that surrounds them, but they forget about their true selves, their inner selves. They give into the illusion. So we're talking about the theory of dream yoga, the things that we need to do while we're awake to become really awake in these inner realms. So we're always in the internal realms, because they believed eventually that you would always be walking in the internal realms once you were awake. That's their belief. And we have a phone call from 780 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Craig.
What's up, Craig?
Oh, not too much, but I just want to make a comment on what you were talking about dreaming, and because it is really a manifestation of your subconscious mind, right? It's like as we go through life, we're making decisions through our subconscious reactions, right? Because we don't really understand our own thought processes. We bury them because, like, just dealing with them and the drivers that we have for life, right? So, like, going to get that new car and stuff, it's actually driven by, like, your negative perceptions within yourself, right? But as you that's really like the path to, like, what people like non-mystical kind of idea of enlightenment, right? It's just bringing yourself above your issues, you know, and just being kind of like content with yourself. So as you work through your thought process, like somebody cutting you off through traffic, right? It makes you mad because he's in front of you now, right? He's above you in whatever kind of context of hierarchy that you're perceiving it as, right? So it makes you upset because they're above you or they're better than you now. So you need to get them back to tit for tat to make yourself feel better, right? But as we work through that stuff and we understand why we think the way we think, our subconscious kind of goes away, and we no longer need these dreams to show us our flaws of reality. You know what I mean? Anyway,
sure, I get what you're saying.
But
yeah, the reflection of the dream state reflects of our subconscious hang-ups, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's trying to teach you, right? And like the fear thing, like you were talking about, like I don't know if you guys have had that experience, but like for me, for what I've been working through and everything throughout the last 5 years has been about working through those fears, right? Like I've had certain dreams where something was attacking me, and like normally I'd be afraid of it, but I had zero fear, and it just kind of passed through me. And then I made that thing afraid, whatever it was, and I had power over it because I didn't give it my power through fear, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing to fear except fear. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. I like what you're talking about.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate the phone call. He's got a good point. But, you know, this is just the beginnings of what they're talking about. So these are the kind of beginning processes, and like Craig is saying, of what you need to understand before you even start going down this road of awakening. And what they talk about also is to not just to overcome fear, but to not become fascinated with objects. And the reason why you do this in your real life is so you'll do it in your dream state. So there's a whole purpose behind this. So when you do it in your dream state, or your astral travel, or whatever it is, that you don't become trapped and you start forgetting and you wake up, that you can move in these states. They don't want you to become fascinated with objects, but to observe them. That's it. No matter how shiny or satisfying something is, if you find yourself in a state of fascination or awe, and you'll be marveled and enchanted, then you start to forget yourself and your own consciousness, and then you fall back asleep because you're given into the enchantment. Now, think about that, how black magicians work. They do the same things to you in our daily life. The strings are all starting to come together here a little bit, and this is something we're going to talk about tomorrow night, and it goes deeper. But when you see an object, the only thing you can do is reflect and ponder on it. That's it. Just ask a simple question. Look for oddities about that object that don't make sense. Discuss all this stuff within yourself. And then you can when it happens in the inner realm. And that made me think about these guys that do DMT, Dan. Did you ever hear Joe Rogan's story about when he took DMT?
I don't believe so.
Well, he I tried to get the sound clip, but I didn't have time to get it. But he talked about that he met these elves in this realm that he went to, and they were just giving him things that were even more fascinating. Right? He said, they were popping things up and showing him to, like, look at this, and then they would just put it away and pop something else out and go, look at this. And he said, whatever they showed me was even more incredible and astonishing and fascinating than it was before. And he could feel how fascinated he was and astonished he was becoming. But they were also telling him, begging him, don't give in to astonishment. Because for some reason, when you do that, then you fall back asleep, and then you come back to this realm. So you can see how hard it becomes. Now, I don't know if Joe Rogan knows anything about dream yoga, but it made me think about that. Made me think about those things. But we're talking about an identity issue here. When I talked to Thomas Campbell, he was the one, and this hit home with me, that said, look, if you're astral traveling and you go into your yard, and he said, for example, and you see a pink bunny, don't give in to astonishment, because it may be a portal to somewhere else. Don't be afraid of it. Don't go away from it because it doesn't make sense or it scares you. Observe it. Pass through it, maybe. And I'm thinking, pink bunny? What the hell is this guy talking about? And I didn't get it at first, but now I do. I kind of get it. Because in that state, your subconscious is just projecting things that's trying to make sense. It's not your consciousness doing it. But it's very damn hard when you try to wake up and you see like these things looking over your face. It's not easy. It's easy to talk about. Well, when I go to sleep or when I try to astral travel, and if I see a black blob or something, I'm just gonna tell it how powerful I am. Well, yeah, that's cool and all. But according to these guys, think about the thing that you're most terrified of. I'm talking about terror here. That you're going to be challenged with that. And if you're not being challenged with these things, then you're not doing the inner work. Now, maybe, Dan, you might see where I struggle with the complete, but you got to have complete faith in this process. So there is a surrender mechanism to it. Go on, brother. Please.
The more at peace that you are with yourself, the more confident you are with yourself, the more happy you are with yourself, you'll find that there's less and less and less things that are going to make you jump scare, And that happens in the outside as well as in the inside. So what might freaking star you or startle you on the outside might not on the inside. So say I'm at complete peace, right? I'm sitting there, I'm home and whatever, and something jumps up, in my subconscious. I can either react to it, or I can sit in the position that I have already practiced in my waking state, which was to be calm and not to react, but to allow myself to think of what's going on, then react to what's going on, and then I can act. It's a slower process, and you will see this with a lot of people who are actually really working their practice. But their reactive state to you, whenever you're discussing anything with them or having conversation with them, is a lot slower than the average person. Why? Because they're very deliberate in their personage. It's almost like the phrase that says, "Be careful about the energy you bring into this place."
Exactly, and that's what makes sense. Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I think when Nikki called me today and she didn't want to reveal her identity about the message she wanted to deliver, I was like, okay, we're dealing with a real person that's doing some real work here. Right. And the reason why is she doesn't want to get involved in the distractions of what happens here because she's trying to awaken. Yeah. But I'm very surprised after studying all these things, all of these people that are awakened, right? They're just totally awake and they know everything. They got all the answers. And yet these Gnostics are telling me that there is the light of the Ein Sof Or, also known as the Okindanok, Quetzalcoatl, Colcacan, Christos, and the Christ, that this ray descends as a lightning bolt, creating and illuminating all the levels of existence from the bottom up. Let me name you these places, so when you follow spiritual gurus, maybe you can ask them if they've been to these places. 7 levels. The abyss, or hell. The tritocosmos. The next level up is the philosophical earth, or the human being. This is our reality. The microcosmos. The next level up is the Earth or any of the planets surrounding, which is the mesocosmos. The next level up is the Sun or the solar system, which is the deuterocosmos. And the next level up after that is a galaxy or a group of suns called the macrocosmos. And it goes up even further, all the worlds from all the clusters of galaxy called the eocosmos. And even further than that, it goes up to absolute or protocosmos, the proper arrangement of the rays of creation of awakening. How many spiritual gurus are out there are selling you books and all these other... I would like to ask each and every one of them if they know any of these places or if it's all just made up. Because the Gnostics have been around for a long time. And they study the mysteries of every single religion. And they do their best to put the pieces together, and they go out, and this is the one thing I admire, is they practice what they preach. Even they quote this: the brothers and sisters of the Gnostic movement must deeply comprehend all esoteric knowledge which we give in the Christmas message as well. The Christmas message is the largest message of them all, in order for them to exactly know the place that they occupy in the rays of creation. This was written in a book called The Elimination of Satan's Tail by Samael Aun-Weor. Do you think he's making this stuff up? He's either making this stuff up and he's incredibly, gifted with imagination. He's only written a bunch of books about this. And the more I study this stuff, I cannot believe that the people that are selling us all this stuff are spiritual gurus, that the people that I talk to day that have all the answers truly are doing the work they say they're doing. Because this whole message is about solar ascension. I can't believe that we're also at the top of the third hour. Are we really at the top of the third hour right now?
Yes, we are.
That's insane. Anyways, I got so much more to cover here. All right.
Taking a break.
We got to take this break, guys. I apologize, but we'll be right back.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for the delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in, The Fringe FM.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Thank y'all for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget, after the show, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable comes on every single night. We're also going to be doing something new Friday nights. I think we're going to do it this week, actually. Friday nights at the same time. We're going to get people, it's going to be like Bill Maher. We're going to get people all over the place to come in from everywhere. And I don't really want to do like a round table thing and just do the few question stuff. I mean, I really want some people to go at it here, so I'm going to try to make it my point to get, which it may not happen at first, but I'm going to make it my point to get people that totally disagree on things across the table from each other, so we can find some common ground here. The Reverend Dan Lopez is in the house with us tonight. We've been discussing dream yoga, solar ascension. The whole point of doing this, though, is fascinating to me, because when you can do these things, you become able to reincarnate without forgetting who you are. According to the Gnostics, you can travel through the stars, and you no longer travel on planets. Just like the little children that remember their deaths, you start to wake up through several lifetimes. The more detailed I read about all these things, the more I realize that it's not such an easy process. And before the break, I was talking about how, I'm amazed at a lot of people, man, they got answers for all this stuff. Everybody's got all the answers, but yet the planet's still in shambles. And just like for the Reverend Dan Lopez told me, all you can do is keep your side of the street clean, which is true. But the reason why I have a problem with accepting blind faith is because, let's say I do this. I go through the abyss, the tritocosmos, the microcosmos. I start working my way up, the mesocosmos. I'm working with my lunar body here, the thing that keeps my consciousness a slave on this planet, my dream body. I'm working to become solar ascended, the deuterocosmos, the macrocosmos. Then I get up to the aeocosmos, the protocosmos, and then I finally get up to the ray of creation that they call the rays of creation. And then you get up there and it's just some damn sorcerer like that guy of Highlander, and he says, "Your soul is mine," and you can't turn around because you blindly went down this road. And do you remember what we talked about last night? The warnings of Manly P. Hall. Do you guys remember all the knowledge that Manly had? Do you remember how he died? Did you guys actually look into his death? I think it's cool that we do these things, that we're learning to astral travel, but I will say again, before we start talking about this information a little bit more, to tread carefully. Because I don't know that this is awesome as this information is. I don't know that it's 100% true. The only thing I've experienced so far is the ethereal body. I know that's true. Does that mean the rest of it is? I guess we're going to find out. I mean, these cats, they get scientific about this stuff, about studying the self. They even tell you to, prepare a breakfast with acidic fruits and ground almonds with honey, and make sure that it's bee honey, so you have plenty of ammunition for your brain. This makes the atoms of the brain awesome for memory, because it's all about remembering. Think about that word, too. The one thing that I can help with is sleep, right? The transition between dreams and lucid dreams to astral projection into astral travel is something that I'm learning myself. But I do know that between sleep and awake, that's the state that you want to be in. But I don't know what you're going to run into. I only know what I ran into. I know that if you can manage to stay awake as your body falls asleep, that you will feel some type of vibration, some type of hum or buzz. Some people have even called it electricity or lightning. Some people even said their ears would ring. But that's the state I'm talking about. And I guess if I had to describe how to move out of that state, because there's so many methods, the rope method that you can pretend like you're pulling yourself up from a rope, or the roll out method where you just kind of pretend to roll, or you actually physically roll off the couch, but you really don't. Your etheric self rolls off the couch and you stay there. But if I had to fundamentally say it, I would agree with these guys and say that you need to get up softly once you're in that state. Pretend that you were maybe as if you were a vaporous fluid state, maybe even a gas, and then just kind of softly roll out. But the whole thing about all of these, once you look into all of these mystery schools, it doesn't matter how they tap into this energy, whether it's through Tantra, through Western magical ceremonial practices, through meditation, through dream yoga. It's all about the process of building your solar body to travel into light and remain completely conscious from here on out. That the lunar body, or your dream body, is the struggle. It's necessary to keep you in the mystery. But the moon is also necessary for life. We travel in our dreams and our sleep in what's called the lunar bodies. This is what they call it. The whole idea of these teachings is to stop dreaming and transform your subconscious life. You know, the right side of the brain that we discussed, with all the symbols and all the stuff that goes on, to transform that life into a conscious life. And once we develop these bodies, we can travel consciously, and we live as many lives as we want. We have control over what happens to us from here on out. We don't forget anymore. We're not washed up on the beach like a beached whale that doesn't know what happened, and we're constantly trying to figure it out and work our way back through that lunar body again. I would really like to believe all this stuff. It makes sense. There's a lot of books about it. A lot of books about self-remembering. And what is self-remembering? It's a state of active consciousness, but it is controlled by your will. And you have to begin with being here, now, right now. And they talk about the many levels of consciousness. A true self-remembering occurs without thought or mental processing. It is a state of consciousness perception and includes the remembrance of the inner being. This is fascinating stuff. And if this is true, then we can easily look around and see how black magic works. Black magic doesn't mean it's some guy that's, dressed up in a black robe doing incantations out in the woods. Black magic is somebody holding your attention in awe or fascination so that you forget who you are, to keep you in that state of dumbness, pretty much. And we do this. It's not just somebody putting a shiny object in your face. We do this with sex, or we do it with money, TV shows. Now, I'm not saying don't enjoy your life, but unless you develop a daily practice of conscious awareness or methods to do so, then it's just you're never going to figure it out. You might as well not even try and just live your life and hope for the best. I got nothing wrong with that. Who am I to say what you do? But these are the things that I think about, right? Because it's fascinating to me. Does Edgar Casey talk about the solar body at all, Dan?
I don't remember. No, mostly. When does he speak about this? Usually when he's talking about going into, he calls it the higher self. That's really what he, if anything that they discuss, it's just, trying to channel your higher self, or trying to reach the Akashic records and stuff like that. Yeah, a little bit, but it doesn't get all as crazy as what you're describing.
These cats in the chat room are saying I'm ranting. Am I ranting again? I need to shut up, I guess.
I can't pay attention to the chat room.
Don't watch the chat. It's a distraction. No, I love you guys. I'm just playing. They love it when I rant. I'm not ranting. These are the things that I think about, right? The solar body, right? The physical, vital, astral, mental, and causal bodies that are created through the beginning stages of alchemy and tantra that provide a basis for our existence.
That's a lot of stuff, though.
It is, man.
Why can't we just keep it simple?
It's not simple. Life isn't simple.
Take it a little bit at a time, pal.
Let's see what somebody else has got to say on this, because I'm tired of hearing myself rant.
People love to freaking overwhelm themselves.
406 area code, you're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Who's this? Who is this?
It's Kat.
Hey, Kat. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I wanted to call because when you had Nikki on, it kind of reminded me of a relationship I had a long time ago.
Oh, yeah?
I wanted to share a little bit about that because he was in a coma at one time.
Okay.
And so anyways, I had this boyfriend a long time ago, and, he was all about trying to do the right thing and being as pure as possible. I mean, really good looking in the face, hair, perfection about his body, went to the gym a lot. I didn't have an ounce of fat on him. Every single muscle was just perfectly formed. He was into herbs, Chinese herbs. Everything was just about purity. And I'm sure that a lot of, women would thought, wow, that's the ultimate man, right? But the thing about him is that he always had this sadness about him, and he wasn't happy. And I finally was like, what is going on here? And then he told me how he was in a coma once. He was real young. I think he was late teens, early 20s. And that he was in a coma. He got in a wreck, and he was in a coma for like 2 weeks. And I guess his mom was always praying. He knew his mom was praying for him to come back. And he didn't want to come back, but he said that, he could feel her energy bringing him back. So he finally got out of the coma, and, she was very happy, and of course he lived. But he said that it was so wonderful on the other side, and he was at peace, and he couldn't describe really what it was like other than he was just pure joy, happiness. And then he said he was just very mad that he had to come back, and he'd never gotten over that.
Really?
And so not only was he unhappy, but he had an anger to him, because now he had to live in this world knowing what it was like to be on that other side, being happy. And even though he continued to pursue being a pure person, he was never happy. And it was very hard to be with someone like that, because I didn't understand about, the Matrix and, the world the way it is.
You broke up with him, didn't you, Kat? You said, I can't, you're bringing me down, dude. I'm out. Is that what you did?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I moved out of the area. I kind of moved out of the area, but I mean, I always feel bad because, I mean, like if you saw him and you thought, oh, this is just like the perfect man and everything, right? But, I mean, I couldn't understand. Now, after listening to so many people, and you've heard too, people life after death, and given their, we know, we kind of, okay, yeah, I can kind of get it, even though I've never experienced that. I can kind of get it. So I kind of heard that a little bit in Nikki's voice, that same kind of sadness. She didn't say anything like that, but it just triggered that. I remembered that, and it's like... Yeah.
Well, she said she didn't want to leave. You remember that? She said she didn't...
Oh, okay, right.
Well, right. To be honest with you, I don't remember if she said it when I called her before the show or if she said it when I talked, but she said that she did not want to come back. She just, at first, but she kind of knew that she had to at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that. I mean, but look, like Dennis says in the chat room, and that's where I was going with this next, is life is a beautiful thing too. Life is half of the equation. You if you want to learn how to do these things, then you got to study it and practice it. But you also got to, go out and have dinner and experience life, and just don't give in to the awe and fascination all the time. And I'm going to tell you something else too. I think you're right, Kat. The Samael Aumvior guy, he was a great Gnostic and he taught a lot of cool things, but I've watched some of his old interviews and he seemed like an angry fella. He didn't smile much. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I kind of wish that he could have learned what, some of the arts now of like remote viewing or learning how to get out of the body. So maybe he could have gone back to that realm, in another dimension through other means, meditation and all that. Because when I meditate, I mean, I know what it's like to feel that joy and that happiness. Once I'm really still at mind, I know what that feels like. It's wonderful. But then you have to come back in the real world, and yeah, you're right. I can experience joys different times throughout the day, and be in that peace. But then I also have to experience, it's like all of a sudden, the rain comes, the dark wah sound comes. It's a real balance. But anyways, I just wanted to share that because it kind of triggered. I remembered, being with that person and going, oh gosh, I know what that person was going through, and it must be rough.
Well, that's a cool story, right? At least you got to date the perfect man that seemed perfect, right? Perceptionally. And then he had a near-death experience and was miserable ever since. That is kind of sad too, though, right? You don't want to...
I know.
I mean, look, right? I'm sure you cared about the guy, and I've been in that situation where you care about somebody and maybe they're perfect for you, but they just aren't happy, and no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. I mean, I don't blame you. You got to get out of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, you got to.
They would have to come to an awakening.
Yeah, they're obsessed with it a little bit, right? Maybe obsessed.
Yeah, they have to come to an awakening that they understand that they're torturing themselves. They have to come to an awakening that it's actually taking away their happiness. They got to come to an awakening that there's a better way of living. Right and on. Until they accept that, they'll stay right where they are. And
is that guy still around, do you know?
I don't know. This was a long time ago. It's interesting to think that, you could be doing everything right, eating right, exercising right. I mean, just you're really, really healthy on the outside, but yet that doesn't always compute to being healthy on the inside.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's torturing himself. So it's almost like he's doing countermeasures. You know, he's doing everything on the outside to take care of what's going on with the internal battle on the inside.
And then you forget that you got. Does he have kids or anything?
He didn't at that time, no.
Yeah, that's another thing, man. That I think about too when I don't spend too much time studying and reading or trying to figure this stuff out. I got a kid over here that needs somebody to raise him. You know, you gotta participate in life. That's for sure.
Yeah, because that's definitely part of your dharma, as they would say. You know, so that's part of your dharma. You have to. But I also think it must be pretty awesome on that other side for some people to be that sad.
Right.
So that's something good to look forward to if you get to go on the other side and you experience that, not become a ghost, unhappy ghost.
Well, it's good to hear you call in. I haven't talked to you in a while, Kat. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
Take care. And I think that we have Sammy on the line as well. Sammy, is that you?
Yes. How are you, Joe? Hi, Dan.
I figured you'd want to chime in on this.
Sammy. Hey. Well, I just have a few basic layman terms, basically, for every human being out there that's trying to understand this. First of all, if they would just realize that the only reason why this seems so difficult is because they've been taught over and over again what they can and cannot do. And if they could just let that go and start over, kind of find themselves at a square one for them, as if no one ever told them this is impossible and thinking you're crazy, and forget all about that and realize they go within and start there. That's their square one, and kind of work their way out. They'll learn to rediscover some things about themselves.
Right.
But if this is just a simple example is this: a child that's raised in another country that, unless they have a ton of money, would never learn English language, are only taught one language. And that's the only language they live with, they learn with, and they live their lives with. Why? Because that's all they've been told they can do. That's what we're doing in this kind of realm.
Well, you're here because you've had your own experience, right? And you told us about it. You've had your own experiences when you were a child, and you still have experiences to this day, right? I know Kat does too. But everybody's. You guys are right. But like Joseph K is saying in the chat room, Zen, you can make things as simple as you want to, but you can make things as complicated as you want to. But everybody knows that life can get complicated. If you actually lived on the earth, you know that it can get complicated. And sometimes it ain't so easy to make things simple.
We've been taught to have a specific thought process. Mm-hmm. And when we step out of line of that, we're taught that's an absolute no, and nothing works if you do that. Well, that's a lie. If you can't grasp the intellectual beings that have written all of these books, the gurus, anybody and everybody who's had enough experience to actually live that and fulfill that life in that way, in this form, and you can't grasp that, step back, recall some of the things that you felt as a child in your heart and soul that filled joy. You fulfilled some kind of joy. Start back there. Start feeling that feeling and start exploring who you really are, because at some point you're going to notice the simple things when you put your phone down, when you put all the electronics off. If you start living in a world, even if it's only for one day a week or a few hours a day or whatever it is, start to allow the things around you to happen on their own. Enjoy the peace and quiet. Just because some people live in a world right now where they don't have that. and we're constantly pelted. So if they could just start back with just a good old-fashioned, even if you just sit in a field somewhere or in a quiet place, find a rooftop, find some place just to sit. And at some point, start to realize, because I'm going to tell you this, okay, when I was young, I was very angry, and for some of those same reasons that have been mentioned tonight. Well, you know, I always thought part of that was my upbringing and the things that happened to me, but you know something? I think the very first time I had my near-death experience when I did die, all I was told was you must go back. And I was basically like casted right back into my body. I mean, so suddenly, and never an explanation. I never got to discover anything about why I was even here or what that even meant. Because, you know, at 4, you don't get that anyway. But the rest of my life, till I hit my 30s, I was a pretty angry person. I mean, like, totally angry.
Did you, what did you do? Like, when I was a kid, I've done, you guys I already talked to you guys about the bomb I made. That wasn't to hurt anybody, but when I was in the 3rd grade, I tried to set my bus on fire.
See, now I had a little brother that went through that kind of stuff. Yeah. As a child, I got into a lot of fist fights at school. I mean, a lot. If somebody even thought they were going to fight me, I was like, oh, really? I mean, I wouldn't stop till I drew blood. I was so angry. And finally at 10, I had a coach take me to the side, and he said, this is what we need to do because I'm noticing something ain't right here. And he taught me how to lift weights, and I ended up becoming a weightlifter. I wrestled in junior high for the high school. I mean, he said you have to have a way to get this out of your system, this anger you have, and this is how you're going to do it. And thank God for him, because I don't know where I would have ended up.
Do you find that stuff, as being honest with yourself, has helped you to be able to travel spiritually, like astral travel and do dream yoga and meditate and all of these things?
Yeah, because for me, a lot of things, when I have that question, if people have that question in their mind, instead of looking outward for the answer, if they would just sit and relax in a moment of peace and quiet to themselves, and even ask yourself that question, they don't even have to literally meditate, because that's not even it's as simple as sitting and having 1 moment of silence to yourself. When you can stretch that moment for as long as possible, that's where you get into that meditation, and you don't even realize that's what you're doing. But you ask yourself these questions, and at some point, your higher self will give you the answer, and you're not going to realize that's where it's coming from if you're not in touch with that, but you're going to get your answer. It will continue to show itself day after day until you get it.
Well, thank you for calling. I appreciate that, Sammy. Thanks for listening.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Putting us in check. You too. Don't work too hard.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
No, I don't.
And so everybody's got their own experience, their own dealings with this. Yet, I can look at the trends and the Google trends and the Twitter trends, and I study the market when it comes to the paranormal field, and everybody is trying to learn how to do this stuff. Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people are trying to learn how to do these things. And I'm really glad that some of you have learned to perfect things about yourself. But there are people out there that haven't. Now, some of you make a lot of good points, I think. How are you going? You want to astral travel and you want to, become interdimensional like all the books and stuff you read, but yet you can't even handle your own physical world. You can't learn to relax. You can't learn to live your life. Those are all good points. But the specific thing I wanted to talk about tonight is what the mystery teachings taught. What they really taught amongst all of the schools. And that if we should actually try to do these things. That's all. No life lessons here, no, getting the answers to life or trying to make things simple or complicated, but how to actually do the stuff. And I think when we learn that the reason why a lot of us struggle with it is because we have to deal with a lot of things in the real world. I think a lot of you can already feel the retraction right now. You don't want to do that. It's just forget about all this stuff and all these different teachings that they taught. Because what do they know? They did it, right? But I don't want to go through all that. I want to push a button and launch out of my body. It don't work like that. Not for everybody. Not for the majority of people. Jason Quitt pretty much told us that, and I kind of believe him. You are a simple person if you perceive it, but you're also complex. It's polarity here. We can go back to that Hermetic principle. You do have a physical body, a vital body. You have an astral body. You have a mental body and a causal body. You're in a constant state of alchemy right now, whether you choose to accept it or not. This is why some of these people are wanting to get off this train right now, like what Kat was talking about. They don't want to deal with this anymore. Some people have tapped into it and they chose to accept it, and so they used Tantra, alchemy. Some people have used meditation. But this energy is the basis of our existence. And it's in all corresponding levels of nature, not just humans. And that's something Gordon White talked about. And I'd like to get him back on the program to talk about that. But just as we have physical bodies in this world and we've got to deal with things, these other bodies that we have are also vehicles for us to create what we call this Christic energy. And I wanted to talk about this because this is the holiday we're in. We see our subconscious likes the Christmas trees. Our subconscious loves the ornaments, and it loves Santa Claus and the presents and the story of Christmas. But there's a super deep meaning to it that you don't have to run from just because it wasn't what you thought it was. And they taught that you receive your lunar body from nature, that it's not a bad thing, it's just part of being alive. But it's also known as the wedding garment in the Bible, the Merkaba. They called it many different things. Christianity calls it the wedding garment. Kabbalah calls it the Merkaba. In Greek, they called it, I think it was Soma Heliakon, something like that. The Egyptians called it the Sahu. All these are masters of the White Lodge, according to some of the people we talked to. Daniel Joseph discussed the White Lodge. And if you guys want to check out Daniel Joseph, he's having a archangelic session here. I'll put it up on Facebook and think you should check that out. But the angels, the archangels, the thrones, the seraphim, all of these people are looking after you. All of these things are a part of you too. But they're also garbed with the solar body. They're aware. Some of you have got all the answers. You don't need to hear the stuff. You know what it is. But some of you don't. And some of you want to study these things. I know. I get your messages. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a student, just like you are. But in all of these teachings, that's what they teach. It's about the solar body. Only someone who passes that being and an authentic human being. That's when you become a real human, when you become totally aware. It's in Buddhism, it's in Christianity, it's in everything. And so this goes back to the show we had about religion and science. It's two sides of the same coin. That's what real religion was about. So you could learn to do these things. And I think if you read Robert Monroe's book, and when he journaled about all of these things that they talk about in the occult, and this is what really frustrated me, that all these things they talk about in the occult, Robert Monroe dealt with, but he didn't know what to call them. And he damn sure didn't want to be labeled an occultist or anything like that. But I think if he would have knew some of these things, it would have answered a lot of his questions. Also, from a scientific point of view, I think if these occultists would have, practiced some of the same methods that Robert Monroe did, instead of just giving in to their, I guess you could say, mystery dogma, they would have learned from him. But the biggest point of the whole thing here, as far as on a mystic level, is how are these things being used against us, and who's using them against us? I've talked to countless Freemasons that have no idea. They know what Yakin and Boaz are. They know kind of what the words mean. They know all the rituals. And they also know that a lot of you think that they're trying to take over the world, and they laugh at you because you believe that. But I think the funny thing is they don't know why they're practicing those rituals, because in the internal realms, they're going to run into these things. The Gnostics also wrote a book about astrology, and it wasn't, hey, I'm a Pisces and this is what I do, and, I like to wear these colors and I'm not supposed to date this person. It wasn't about that at all. It was about traveling worlds. And then when you got to certain planets or star systems, you would greet these angels. And you would have to know the passwords that the Masons learned. You would have to know the mantras so that you could enter these realms. Nikki called in earlier and said that she traveled into a realm, the realm of, what was his name, Dan? Belteshazzar? Didn't you know something about that? We talked about it during break.
Yeah, the Babylonian king Belshazzar.
Let's say you travel into that realm and you have no idea what some of that person's symbols are or passwords or whatever. You're out of your element. Now, Robert Monroe talks about that, how he got kicked out of certain places that he would astral travel to. And some of the entities didn't want to even get near him because they didn't want his, whatever it had. It's almost like they treated him as if he had an unconscious disease that they didn't want to be a part of. He was even surrounded in some of the worlds he visited and promptly thrown out. Well, that's freaky, man. I mean, are we, as much as all of the, I guess from a sky view, if you look from a satellite view, look at all the little ants on Earth and everybody, 70% of them know everything about everything. But yet, when a few of them go around and travel these interdimensional realms, they're getting thrown out because they don't know crap. And the trick of it is, I think, is what Sammy and what Catalina are talking about, is understanding how to live our lives the right way, how to communicate with energies the right way, treat life correctly, treat each other correctly. And then that, in turn, is part of a dream yoga. Why? Because it's cause and effect. What you do here has an effect in the astral realm. Also, and vice versa. What you do in the astral realm has an effect of what happens here. That's all magic really is. True magic. If you want practical results. And I've even got frustrated talking to these guys thinking, hey, let's learn magic, right? Let's talk about magic. And what do they tell you? Especially chaos magicians. If it has no practical purpose on this life, why do I care? Really? So you're learning some deep occult secrets here, buddy. You're learning how to get things to manifest and happen in your life using sigil magic and other tantra energies. Some of them are even masturbating, right? They're doing these things to manifest whatever they want in their life without any cause or concern of what happens in the astral realm, which in turn affects this planet and affects all of us. It also, in turn, affects how all these other entities and interdimensional beings view us. So, yeah, maybe Nikki's right. Maybe we got some waking up to do. Or just, we don't have to think about it. We can just go back and talk about aliens, which we'll do that too. But I think it's funny that you're going to find that most of these occultists, when they really got deep into things, what did they run into? What did Aleister Crowley run into? An alien. This being looked like the Lamb. It's a wonder why they don't come down here and land on our damn lawn, right?
They don't like the coffee.
They don't like the coffee. That's probably the least of what they don't like. We're down here blowing crap up, killing each other. How many millions of people did we kill just to end a war? And I'm thinking, man, all these other beings, they don't even deal with this kind of crap. But it's
they do worse.
It's in the 2000s, though, man. We're being... See, this is... I finally understood, again, what John Anthony West was saying about progress and why he was so frustrated. John Anthony West wasn't a guy that hated life. He loved his life. He wasn't afraid to say anything to anybody. Doesn't matter if he was sitting in front of a crowd of people, and I miss him, and I miss people like him, and I miss people like Jim Mars. So we don't have that in these communities yet, but it's starting to happen. Some of them are coming back into the fold. I think Ryan Gable's one of those people. Have you noticed they won't even let him into some conferences? They're afraid of what he's going to say. I don't think I would even care about the state of... I got to be totally honest with you. I don't think I would care about the state of humanity or this planet. And I asked Nikki that. I just want to live my life and do my own thing like the rest of you. I don't think I would even care until you love something more than yourself. And that's a gift, man. When you have a child and you finally learn to love something more than yourself, not just pretend to love something more than yourself, you just really do, then you start to wake up a little bit. I think that's why they say a child is a gift. It's the largest gift. But I'm not a Gnostic. I just got a text message that said, Joe, are you a Gnostic? No, I'm not a Gnostic. I'm just saying that they were one of the societies that looked for the parallels in all of the different things. That's it. But you have guys in the spiritual community, some of you listening have bought these, John of God crystals, and I read a story about what this guy can do. I think this guy can do, as much as it seems like all a big coincidence, I think this guy has a little bit of power that he tapped in and learned how to do this stuff. Just like we talked about last night, maybe use some mental gymnastics on some people and got a large following. And then now that he's busted because, people aren't getting what they want from him, but now that he's busted, he starts to do a little black magic. Freaks everybody out because can't really do anything, but he's still going to end up in a cage. I've thought about interviewing a black magician just for the sake of entertainment, right? Like, every radio show has had the Satanist on or a black magician or somebody just because it's entertaining to hear their point of view. I got to tell you, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want nothing to do with them. Don't want to talk to them. Don't think it's entertaining. It's not worth it because they're the most selfish people in the world. They learn these mysteries. They learn all of this esoteric stuff. And because of them, they're the reason why everybody's scared to even look into it because of what they do in the world. How many people have been arrested for pedophilia in the past year? Do you even know how many people have been arrested for it? And most of them are priests. People that are using symbolism for power. Well, black magic is a fallacy. I don't think so. I think it's very real. But if I had to sum up tonight's thing, and I didn't want to talk about black magic. This happens on the show quite a bit. I didn't want to go down this road. I wanted to talk just about how to get past this one little part of ourselves. This one little small part of ourselves called the lunar body. The lunar body, our dream self. So we can just learn how to use it better. So we can transfer from dream state to more aware, to lucid, to astral travel or astral projection. And then when we become even better, we can astral travel into other realms. And it's cool, man. People like Thomas Campbell, William Buellman, They can do these things. They can travel to other worlds. They've been there. And everybody wants to know their methods. Send me the methods, right? Just tell me how you did it. But nobody wants to sit down and spend some time with these people and see how they really are in the real world. They're awesome people, man. And that reflects in the astral world. And so I think they've been given the opportunity to do these things. Self-observation is all I'm talking about here. This is a part of dream yoga. It's just an exercise of attention, something that we learn to do to where we become an indifferent observer of our own, I guess, psychological crap. True self-observation. That's it. Just do it a little bit each day. It's just an act. It's just a work of directed attention. That's all it is. Without the interference of your thought. Let the thoughts come, let them go, but observe yourself. And we can direct our attention intentionally into our inner selves. That's not really passive attention. That's real intention into our inner selves, right? You got to have an observer. Somebody texted me that a little while ago, Dan. Let's see. Quantum dreaming is what they called it. Of course, you need to be an observer you need to be observed in order to exist. Yeah, same thing Thomas Campbell talks about. So I love it all. And tomorrow night when we do our show, I'm going to bring back a very, very old friend. I think some of you are going to recognize his voice. And we're going to go into just how some of the stuff is being used against you. That's all. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to raise hell against, I guess, Monsanto or something. Just know that it's there. Because once you become observant and you know that all these people are doing these things through Hollywood, through music, it's definitely in music, through movies. Some of it's just basic psychology. It ain't even magic. They've even gotten real dirty on you. It's just, you can't even get past that. And then we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the real deep, deep, dark magic in Hollywood. That's there. And not to get negative or be negative, but just to be aware of it so we know where we stand, so we know how to wake up. And only for those that care about that. And for the people that don't care about waking up and they just want to talk about conspiracies and aliens and they don't care about what the reason why the Gnostics called Jesus Christ the Master. They didn't really call him God. They called him the Master, the guy that figured out all this stuff. Where do you think they learned it from? If you're not interested in that, then don't tune in. We'll get back on aliens soon enough because it's all a part of the same thing. But I am a little bit angry at this. I'll be honest with you. At this John of God character, this is what's wrong with our community, guys. This is why when we go to conferences, we want to put our faith and trust in these people that are guiding us and selling us all these items. And they give the people that are actually there to do good things a bad name. Once you learn about a guy like this, who's going to trust another guy that sells big fat crystals, who's trying to teach you spiritual stuff? You should be pissed off about it. This guy gives Jason Quidd a bad name. He gives other people a bad name. Radio hosts that are just doing these shows just to, get popular, but they're trying to tell you they're spiritual and awoke. They don't care about that stuff. They just want more listeners. They're giving real seekers a bad name. Authors that are out there just to sell books are giving true authors a bad name. And black magicians that are in the mystery schools doing black magic that learned all of this stuff, that went through every little bit of all of these teachings, the practices and everything that they've done just for their own gratification so they can have their own things and be super selfish and trick people, are giving the other people that are trying to do good things for this planet a bad name. And that is the spiritual war that we're in. We're also in a spiritual war with ourselves every single day. Because that's something I think we got to remember. We like pointing our finger at these people like I'm doing right now. But these people are just a part of us. They represent. You're not better than they are. You're not more special than they are. You're not a better person. These people are your brothers and sisters, according to Christ. They represent everything you hate about your own nature. We all have the capability of doing these things. We just choose not to. I want to play. I want to eat food, man. I want to live my life. Like, I just want to eat food, watch a sunset, go surfing, play a little golf, maybe astral travel a little bit, and learn to, progress through the universe. But I got to tell you, it's that simple. That's how simple it is for me. But it's super frustrating because everything is tainted. I don't even want to get into the government and the mind control stuff, even though we have to. But it's all tainted. You know who taught me all this? Dan Lopez. That's who taught me all this.
Get out of here.
That's what this whole rant was about, to let you know that Dan Lopez has taught me all of this stuff. Every little thing I said tonight was all from Dan. No, I'm just playing.
Don't believe the hype.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, when I started doing this network, you know how many people wanted me to get rid of Ryan Gable? I haven't even told Ryan. People were frustrated with him, mad at him. They didn't like what he was talking about. They didn't want to hear it. It's totally the opposite now because people are starting to realize a lot of the stuff he says is true. Like, people talk crap about Hollywood stars. Have you ever sat down and talked with one? I have. They're just people, man. We're all on our own paths, but yeah, it's a fight. And with the Fringe FM, that's what we're going to do. We have to sustain the network, but this thing isn't just about growing a business. There's more to it than that. But I think all of you you're here for a reason. I mean, every one of you have helped the show along the way. Every single one of you have helped in some form or fashion. So I think that there's a responsibility to keep this going. We got to keep doing this, man. And if we get answers, great. If we don't, fine. But at least we tried, man. We came, we saw, we tried. We did the best we could while we were in this place, damn it. We had a little fun. We learned some stuff. But you never know. We might break ground here. I'll take a chance on some of these people that call in. You know how many people call in and tell me that they want to tell their story online, and I have to call them and screen through them to see if they're legit or not? You gotta give some of these people a chance. They might be real. They might be legit. Everybody wants to bring back Art Bell, and I miss Art Bell. That's the one thing that he did. He was willing to take a chance on people. But now everybody knows so much, they're not willing to take a chance on anybody because they just know it all. What's the point? Curiosity is what we need to bring back, I think. And I'm so damn sorry that I ranted all night. That I woke you up for this, Dan, just to rant all night. I'll never do that again to you, brother. Never.
Okay.
Never. But we will be back tomorrow night. I don't want to tell you who's coming on the show because it's going to be a surprise.
Surprise!
Surprise! But I do have to say that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chronox. Who else? Bundy, Carbon-Based Life Forms, Space Station, and Kevin MacLeod. If you're listening live, stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night. expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stick.